Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion. Starts over, apparently. Streak is dead, thanks to me. You know, it's not me, it's the selfish gene. 3ER7GPMA. I created too many sons, I gave too many ribs to the meat boys, and all of a sudden it all fell apart. What is this haircut? This is like... oh no. It's like I'm back in my high school days, where everyone had like long sleeve shirts and they cut out a little thumb hole on the sleeve and then they inserted their thumb through the thumb hole, so it was like their shirt was also a glove. You guys lived through that era as well, or was that, you know, many of you probably did. Some of you may still be, you know, living that life for yourselves, and that's fine. You know, I pretty much got, like, an outfit. I look like Arthur. In the winter, I wear a hoodie and jeans. In the summer, I wear a polo shirt and jeans. It is a different one every day, but still, you know. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody else's appearance. I'm just making fun of the passage of time. It was funny because, you know, my parents would show me pictures of them in high school in, like, the early 1980s, and my dad kind of had like an afro. My mom had like big hairsprayed hair all the way up. And you'd be looking at it, you'd be like, wow, everybody looks so stupid back then. Then I was going to high school, and people were cutting the holes in their shirts to put their thumbs through. And people thought it was like a cool, kind of punky scene sort of thing to do. You know, it's been a while. I think I've now reached the point, I was thinking about it the other day, because, you know, when we go to these concerts, sometimes there's, like, high school students there, and I was like, man, the oldest high school student here has to be at least 12 years younger than me. That's around the point where I think you can start to recognize, you know, when I look back at yearbook photos from my high school, I'm like, that trend is gone. I have no idea what the current trend is. But the trends that were popular, not that I was following them necessarily, but I always have kind of looked like, you know, 7 or 8 years older than I actually am. I was kind of hoping the baldness would counteract that. Like, I shaved my head when I was 19, and people were like, you look 30. And I was like, yeah, but just you wait until I turn 30, and people say I look 30. Then who's going to be laughing? And now I'm like 29, and people are like... so you've been around for a while, huh? And I'm like, don't ever talk to me. But yeah, you know, it's been long enough. I look back, it's almost like looking at photos of people in the 1970s that have bell bottoms on. You're like, what were we thinking? I wasn't alive in the 1970s, so I wasn't thinking that much, but what were they thinking? It'll happen to you, by the way. Enjoy being at the zeitgeist while it lasts. From a fashion standpoint, because you only get 2 cracks at it. The first crack you get is when, you know, you're of a contemporaneous age with the trend, and the second crack is when it comes back around 25 to 35 years later, God willing, you're still around to take advantage of it and bust out some stuff. You're gonna have to give it to, like, your kids, or even your grandkids at that point, and be like, you know, well, back in my day at Studio 54, this is what we used to wear. And they'll be like, whatever, Grandma, just give me the vintage pants. I got a high school dance coming up. I got a cyber dance. It's a VR dance. I don't know what the future is going to be like. Who knows, man? It might be, you know, you're not passing down your 2004 era sweatshirt with the holes in the thumbs cut out. For fashion purposes, you're saying, you know, hey, if you cut this up, you can make some bandages and stave off the wounds from the radiation poisoning a little longer. But Grandpa, this is your favorite shirt. The shirt reminded you of the olden times, where everything was prosperous, and the grocery stores had fruit. Sorry, it's the necessity of life. It's survival. Can you not be a spider who moves in a completely... look, that bomb was not meant for you. And then you just kick it out this way somehow. I don't know what I did on that one, to be honest with you. But anyway, please, please, I'm begging you. We should be using ventricular razor more here. All I'm saying is trends Ooh, trends change. That hoof was not because of the passage of time. That hoof was because I was like, that guy almost hit me. Ventricular Razor's good enough. It's a fun item to roll with. I'm actually going to be a little bit cautious here and grab this. I had a moment of awakening the other day. I looked at the response to an Isaac episode. It was not particularly... I mean, it wasn't particularly negative. The worst that any Isaac episode, really any video I produce, apparently I'm not an easy person to hate, which is fantastic news. On an internet that can sometimes be very hostile. But, you know, the worst it ever gets is like, you know, 1/3 of people watch the video and they watch the whole thing and they click a button that's like, I like you, but I don't like this video. And I'm like, you know what, that's fair. I would never deign to suggest that that's an abuse of your rights. But I was looking through the comments, trying to figure out why, so I can diagnose it and eventually tell it to my therapist as to why, you know, I have irrational anxiety over making videos of video games over the internet. And, people were mad that I re-rolled a 1-run. So I don't know, okay? I feel like I've crossed through some sort of looking glass here. It might not have, I might be mischaracterizing it. It might not be because it's a 1-run. It might have been because it was a fun run and just spelled wrong. Or maybe my brain read it wrong, which is also plausible. But anyway. So I think I gotta... It's not really toning down the Zane, but I think I've always gotta keep in mind, hey, you know, rules to some extent are made to be broken. What we should be doing, if we get a great run, don't re-roll it. Don't feel the obligation to re-roll and then wring your hands and go, well, the code of conduct says I have to re-roll it. The IAA, remember that bit? The IAA says we have to re-roll it. So, you know, we'll try to temper its freedom and responsibility. It's a very groovy combination, baby, etc., etc. I'm, like, demoralized this afternoon. I was gonna say this morning, but who am I kidding? Anyway. So I went out for a bike ride this morning. I woke up a little bit late. By my standards, at least. Hold up, let me see what's in here. I do not at all remember how much HP we have, but I'm pretty sure we can do both of these. And then that, I'm just gonna say no to, just in case. But I woke up a little bit late because my wife hid me in my sleep. Now, the way that she tells the story, I deserve to be hit, and I think that that's probably correct. You know, I'm not saying that I would have hit her if the shoes were reversed because, you know, I'm not trying to be this sort of guy, but, you know, that would come across as a lot less affable than the anecdote that I'm about to tell. People would be troubled, I think. But, she was like, you know, you had your hand on my pillowcase and you were, like, scratching my pillow while you were asleep. So I tried to wake you up, and when you wouldn't wake up, I sort of smacked you and went, "Arr!" And I was like, okay. That's fair. That's a okay reason. Excuse me? Why wouldn't you use the ventricular razor in order to get out of the curse room at half price? You fool. Anyway. You know what we could do? Why even fight these guys? Just leave, re-enter, open this, leave, there you go. Hilarious. That should be... Oh no, 9 lives takes precedent over Judas' Shadow, even if Judas' Shadow shows up first, huh? Oh well. Still not bad, like, we still have 9 lives. So I woke up a little late, and I went on a... You know, my morning routine is... Dude, I've been drinking the grossest breakfast. I worry... And I'm not nearly, you know, in the kind of physical shape to warrant having a breakfast like this yet, but, you know, they say... Dress for the job you want. I'm eating for, like, the quads that I want, right? So, I have 2 needs in the morning. One of them is coffee, any kind of caffeine. The near physical or at least psychological dependency on it to some extent. The other one is a little bit of, you know, some kind of calorie requirement. So that when I go out for a bike ride, my legs aren't like, I'm dying. So what I do is I take some cold brew concentrate that I make myself, put it in a shaker bottle. Maybe put like a cup of water in. After that, that's like essentially 1 cold brew coffee. Scoop protein powder on top of that. Shake it all up, drink it. I was gonna say drink it on the toilet, but honestly, you don't need that much information about my morning routine, to be honest with you. And if if you want any more details like that, then you'll have to pay for a private show. Sorry, my microphone's kind of like, the cord is dangling here. There we go. Should be better. It's like drinking caffeinated dirt. I still do it because, you know, I think deep in my soul I harbor this idea. By the way, we're a fool. At least pop this down here so that you can teleport relatively close to your exit point. You know, we should be using this for quality of life as well as for our own enjoyment. But anyway, so my routine was a little off this morning. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to choke down the slurry, the nutritional slurry, but I did it nonetheless. I'll take deep pockets. And then I went out for my ride, and I was like, you know, struggling. I was struggling. It was super windy. It was like an I'm the king of the world Titanic sort of situation, but like, I was dying out there on the road. And then I was driving east to west, or biking east to west. And you tell yourself, you know, you're going out in a headwind. The wind is blowing towards you. At least when I go back in the other direction, there's going to be a tailwind. Go back in the other direction, how is it possible that there are two headwinds instead of a headwind and a tailwind? Get home, check the wind. I want to see, is there anything in the news about this mysterious 360 directional wind that we've been having? Wind, 4 kilometers an hour in the southerly direction. I.e., never a headwind nor a tailwind, and also not even particularly strong. So my legs are just like broken today for whatever reason. I'm sticking with black feather for now. Demoralized is not the right word. But you know, it's a process. I don't know if any of you have invested in... Oh, thanks for dropping that in just the most convenient place I could ever ask for, by the way. We do this bit a lot, okay? And I don't want you to think that I actually believe that I'm old. What I am, though, is older than I've ever been before. And even now, as I say it again, it ends up being true. You know, when I was 19, and I would work out. I would go like 8 months without working out, and then I would do like 10 push-ups, and I'd wake up the next day, and I'd be ripped. Mild exaggeration, but still. And I knew it at the time. I was like, this isn't gonna last forever. I wasn't one of those people who's under the impression they're like, oh, my body's just different. Like, I don't know. I just like, I can eat whatever I want, and I don't gain like a lick of weight. Even that back then, I was like, one day this won't last. You know, I did that like 100 push-ups thing. It was a common, like, almost a fitness meme for a while. There's a website that teaches you how to do 100 push-ups by giving you like an 8-week plan or something like that to start you from zero. So I did that, and it's incredible what the human body can do, you know? You start... What did you do there? You ran towards me, but I don't have a trinket that would predicate that. I'm confused. Either way, you know, you start and you're like, I can do 25 push-ups. And then a week later, you can do 45 push-ups. How does that happen? Now, like, in May, I can go out for a... Oh, you fool! But still, I want to go back in and see what they got in there. In May, I can go out for like a 25-kilometer ride. You know what I'm riding in June? 26.4 kilometers. It's, I'm not lamenting it, you know? I'm just saying it's different. It gets harder. A little bit, at least, and I imagine. If it's getting harder now, I'm still... It's disconcerting, because I'm at the age where most people talk about, like, in most sports... Wow. Whatever, we're just getting closer to Judas' shadow, eh? In most sports, people are like, that guy's entering his prime, and I'm like, this is prime? What happens when you turn, like, you know, 37? I think you don't really get it when you're a kid. I would see, like, 45-year-old NHL players, like Chris Chelios, and they'd be like, well, I wonder if he can keep playing in the NHL. And you're like, of course, just try hard. How hard could it be? Turns out it's probably pretty hard, you know? Pretty sure genetically, you know, in our evolutionary history, the average human being was like, you know, I mean, without being like pseudo-intellectual here, you should know, I'll be the first person to tell you the gaps in my knowledge, alright? But from like an evolutionary standpoint, you know, the purpose of life is to pass on your genes. Now, some people, they take that expression the wrong way, and they're like, oh, so the meaning of life is just to have children? No, just from like an evolutionary standpoint. It's like the meaning of food is to power your metabolic processes, but, you know, as someone who lives in like in North American society, the meaning of food is to eat, you know, delicious stuff that's bad for you most of the time, and then later feel bad about it and, you know, start to make adjustments to your life. But, you know, you can derive your own kind of meaning from that. So I'm pretty sure that, you know, within your genes, they got a brain, obviously. There's a genetic brain somewhere in there, don't question it. And they go, you know, he's 40. Just, if he's not the leader of, you know, his tribe at this point, he's pretty much put out to pasture. Don't even bother rebuilding this stuff. Just focus on... You're retired now. Telomeres, you're retired. Get out of the office. Here's your gold watch. You get the idea. This run is so not bad. Is every floor just curse of the you don't know where you're going? I feel like our portals just don't work anymore. Might as well, right? Little touchy. Anyway, the run is fine. And it's only going to become finer when we become Dark Judas. If we become Dark Judas. We got a really good foundation going on here anyway. Don't take my my deaths as like an indication that things are in a bad spot, because they're really not. Again, it's like, you know, Magic the Gathering. It doesn't really matter until you're at 0 life. And we can hit 0 life, you know, 5 more times before I'd even start to be wary. You might say, like, that's a... Again, I want to go back to this gross breakfast thing. The truth of the matter is I used to just go out hungry, and it was fine. But then when I started going further, it sucked really bad. Like, I had one ride... I went out, and I've never... Well, I've rarely had this in my life. You know, you ever get that, like, kind of incredible thirst? Where, you know, maybe you've been outside for recess on a day where, like, the government was like, don't go outside for more than 10 minutes. You know, you're gonna get heat stroke. But your teachers were like, we need to not see you for 10 minutes, or we're gonna just go insane. So they send you outside anyway. I'm very familiar with that because we have the same thing in Canada, but it was like in the dead of winter. It'd be like minus 25 with the wind chill. And the news is like, if you're outside for more than a minute without some kind of cold protection, you're gonna get frostbite. And then we were like, teachers, on the news they said we'd die if we were outside. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Sorry, we gotta go to the meeting room. Sorry, there's a big important meeting happening in the meeting room. Everyone's outside, like, huddled together for warmth. We probably weren't at risk of death, but at the time, you know, we were very sheltered. We didn't know what, you know, how close we were, how far away we were. It doesn't really matter. I had that level of thirst, but it was hunger instead. And all my brain could think of was like, I want Skittles. It's like it defaulted to the most biologically available food that it could think of. And I think it did a pretty good job. Honestly, coming up with Skittles. So I'm taking a little stab in the dark here, hoping that it wasn't that. I wanted to be able to get Sackboy here. Not terrible either way. Let's head down to the next floor. There is a chance at boss rush. Shouldn't focus on it, but the chance does exist at least. Get me out of here. By the way, I'm so sorry for my ventricular razor plays. It's such a unique item. My brain is just like, it mostly is completely ignoring its existence. I've had good and fun runs using ventricular razor. This is not necessarily one of them. I'm using it to like such poor effect so far. What you should be doing is what we're doing right now, really, and that's just, you know, putting down signposts that we can use to easily travel between these floors. Hey, mister. We can also get out of boss rush for free, which is obvious, but So yeah, that's why I eat a gross breakfast, okay? And you probably could do better, but, you know, you gotta... I'm gonna give you a little piece of advice, okay? Many smarter minds than myself have come up with this. A very common way that people, talk is they'll vent about a problem, and then another person will give them tools to solve the problem. This is not what most people want, myself included, okay? So people will say things, it's more like, you know, if people want advice, they'll ask for it. And this is not me being petulant, it's just me saying, you know, if you want people to enjoy you in conversation more, instead of always acting like you got the solutions to their problems with unprompted advice, you should sympathize with them and, you know, try to relate to them. So people would be like, well, why don't you just eat like a real breakfast? Well, the answer is because I get stomach cramps if I eat like within half an hour of going out for a ride. Or why don't you just wake up 15 minutes early? Because I like to sleep, okay? So this is the compromise that for me has worked out. You don't have all the answers. The simple fact of the matter is that I can deal with something that doesn't taste that good if it provides a functional purpose. Do I occasionally burp and a little bit of dirt comes up? Yeah. That's life, baby. If you can't handle the dirt, put away the shovel. I don't know what it means, but, you know, if you ever want people to remember your catchphrase, it's got to be in, like, a catchy sort of situation like that. Oh, dude, proptosis, 100%. And we've sort of redeemed our use of ventricular razor. Now, we do probably want to go to the shop. I feel like this is the secret room. Or this. Oh, wow. So I'll just be honest with you. I have no idea. Oh, we already went to the second secret room. I don't think we need to buy anything here. I think we'll just move along. And the run just keeps getting better and better. I always encounter it, and please don't take this as me, you know, railing against the audience. I see all the time on Twitter, and I'm gonna keep this bit short because I've already said it 35 times, but the most annoying thing on Twitter is not people being jerks. That's obvious. The most annoying thing for me, because I'm on like a reactionary level, apparently, is when one person's a jerk and like 1,000 people spotlight the jerk and go, hey man, not cool, and they act as if it's like widespread jerkery when it's just one idiot who has like 2 followers. And it happens all the time in this side of the industry, and I don't mean to besmirch the good name of my colleagues, because I understand what it's like, you know, you're living your life in this weird kind of lens of the public eye. Everything you do is constantly spotlighted, willingly or otherwise, and then, you know, hyper-judged. For real, like, no matter what you do, why did you make your face the commoner instead of the dubious Karim in Dark Souls? And you're like, it's okay, just don't worry about it too much. So you gotta understand that a lot of these, you know, streamers, YouTubers, content creators of various forms, it's not really that they get upset easily, it's just that there's so many, you know, you're constantly under the gun. So I'm gonna take their side just a little bit here. But you find it all the time when you're talking like about your life on Twitch, and it makes it difficult to do so sometimes because it's like, you know, you're gonna be judged if you bring something up. So you gotta have a strong, thick skin and a strong backbone to bring it up, because you'll be like, you know, even mundane stuff. People would be like for example, I'll be like, I had a sandwich for lunch. There'll be like 9 people in chat that are like, sandwich? Way too many carbohydrates for me. And I'm like, okay, well that's fine. For lunch, I did not make you a sandwich and then pass it to you and then get offended when you said you wouldn't eat. I'm just saying I had a sandwich for lunch. I worry though that, you know, like the community that you have is to some extent a reflection of your own personality. And the stuff about my community that occasionally can get on my nerves is probably stuff about me that gets on other people's nerves, like, you know, a need to be a little bit pedantic in conversation, absolutely. Because I'm definitely like, I'm Twitch chat in real life to some extent. I'll admit. Like, I'll see people, I was at the grocery store, yes, this is a great example. And this is a rare grocery store analogy where I'm judging myself. This dude behind me at the grocery store had a cart full of chicken broth. Just, like, maybe 20 cartons of chicken broth, and that was it. And in my head, I was just like, making a soup or something? What's up with that? Look at this bozo. You got enough chicken broth? Hey, save some of the broth for the soup makers at the rest. You know, it was just dumb stuff like that was coming into my head. It's not any business of mine. Whether or not this guy's making a bunch of soup, who cares, right? But I keep that to myself. Except, you know, in Twitch chat, sometimes the temptation is there to be like, hey, save some broth for the rest of us, Richard Brothson. So I get it. Sort of. I don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Even if I don't get it, I'm like, the nerves are deadened to it to some extent. Help me not get hit by... Help me get away from myself. I keep trying these funny singing voices in the hopes that maybe one of them is actually my quote-unquote real singing voice. Like, you know how in Dream On, Steven Tyler has like a normal voice, and in every other song he's like, you know. I'm hoping to find my Dream On voice. Where, no, Dark Bomb, you don't get these hearts, okay? Where all of a sudden people go, oh my god, the problem was just that NL hadn't found his voice yet. I'll try singing in a British accent. You know, one thing we never talked about, why is it that English singers lose their English accent when they sing? Like Adele, to me, well, it's useless right there. Not Adele's useless, obviously, you know. I don't want to say she's useful, because that's almost even more demeaning. She's a useful person. I'm just, you know, she's a talented singer, for sure. But when she sings, she's not like, rolling in the deep, governor. You know, that's just needlessly rude and overly reductive, but it gets the point across. I'm just telling you, okay, if you're from England and you become a famous singer, you have an obligation to sing with an accent, and I'm not trying to say so I can identify who you are. I'm just trying to say that, you know, we're in constant warfare with the United States of America, trying to determine who has the definitive form of English, okay? In Canada, we oftentimes say things in the British way, like pasta, for example. You know, we inherited that pronunciation from our former colonial overlords. Technically still, I guess, colonial overlords, but I'm not getting into that discussion today. The point of the matter is, when you lose your accent to sing, it just gives them a little bit of extra ammunition to think that they have the definitive form of English. I'm not trying to say that England has the definitive form of English. I'm trying to say that they're all equal. And I don't think that should be a radical position, yet here we are. So you have every single song. Oh, take me back to dear old Blighty. Okay, this is one of the rare times this actually worked. And we're going to become Guppy despite me, if I'm being honest, just completely forgot that we had the left hand. Wow. So we're going to drop both of these. We don't need either of them now. Not all English singers lose their English accent when they sing, though. That's not fair. Morrissey, decidedly English when he sings. Now, when he talks, he sounds like an idiot. Not because of the accent, but because of the words that he has coming out of his mouth. But, like, you know, I always respect that. I don't know, though. Is it deliberate? I don't want to rake anybody over the coals. I feel like I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten older at identifying a Canadian accent. I used to think Canadians didn't have an accent, and then I heard, like, me and Malf talking on a recording together, and I was like, you know, my Canadian accent has been smoothed out. We grew up in the same area. I Americanized, just get rid of all this. I Americanized my voice and my pronunciation to some extent, which is not difficult, you know, when you're so close, and you consume like 99% American media anyway. And then I moved out to the West Coast, where like, you know, it's still Canada, but it's kind of some weird amalgamation of Canada, the West Coast culture of the United States, you know, the prairie culture of Alberta and Manitoba, as well as like, you know, a Pan-Asian sort of society we got going on here. So it's like it's a melting pot over here. So now when I talk, I'm like, I can hear the difference between Malf and myself, Malf's been watching the Leafs and listening to the Tragically Hip for like, you know, in a hyperbolic time chamber. Well, I've been out here like, yes, I believe my gate is 71B. I don't know good Americanisms, though. It's very hard for me to say huh instead of a. A is a very versatile word. It signifies the end of your part of the conversation, and it's an invitation for the next person to get started. The closest American analog, as I understand it, is huh, but huh, first off, just feels harder, like the words turn to sand in my mouth. Huh. What is it good for? But then beyond that, it also feels so aggressive sometimes. It's like, you better agree with me, huh? Huh? It's like the precursor to a fight, the words being exchanged. I gotta train myself for that. A is, I just prefer A. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps it a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.